The HSS Indomitable Fury floated in the docking bay like a metal potato covered in rust spots and welding scars. Ambassador Zekthara stared at the human warship through 4 different eyes, each one focusing on a different part of the vessel that made no sense. "This is your newest military ship?" Zekthara asked, their voice carrying the musical tones of the Hegemony Council's most respected diplomat. The translator box on their chest turned the melodic sounds into flat human words. Captain Sarah Chen spat a brown stream of tobacco juice into a cup and nodded. "Yep, she's a beauty, isn't she?" Zekthara looked at the ship again. The hull appeared to be made from old mining equipment welded together. Large sections were clearly repurposed cargo containers with military paint slapped over the original markings. Some of the weapons looked like they had been torn off old space stations and bolted onto the sides. The whole thing looked like someone had taken a junkyard and tried to make it fly. "The design is unique," Zekthara said carefully. Their species had learned long ago that humans could be sensitive about criticism. "Unique's one word for it," Chen said with a grin. "Come on, I'll give you the tour." They walked up a ramp that creaked under their feet. The inside of the ship was just as confusing as the outside. The corridors were lined with pipes and cables that seemed to go everywhere and nowhere. Warning signs in multiple human languages covered every surface. Most of them said things like "do not touch" or "will explode if heated." "This is our main hallway," Chen explained as they walked past a room where several humans were hitting something large and metal with hammers. "And that's engineering. They're fixing the gravity generator again." "Again?" Zekthara asked. "Third time this week. But hey, percussive maintenance works 90% of the time." Zekthara made a note on their data pad. Most civilized species had not used physical repair methods for thousands of years. Their ships fixed themselves using nanobots and quantum field manipulators. They entered what Chen called the bridge. It was a circular room filled with screens that looked like they had been salvaged from a dozen different ships. Some showed star charts. Others displayed what appeared to be entertainment programs. One large screen in the center was completely blue with white text that said, "System error, please restart." "Don't mind that," Chen said, pointing at the error screen. "Johnson will kick it in a few minutes and it'll work fine." A young human walked over to the screen and gave it a solid kick with his boot. The screen flickered and displayed a tactical readout of the surrounding space. "See? Good as new," Chen said proudly. Zekthara watched a human sitting at what appeared to be the weapons station. The controls looked like they had been made by hand. There were actual physical switches and buttons instead of holographic interfaces. Some of the labels were written in permanent marker. "Your weapon systems are manual?" Zekthara asked. "Manual and proud of it," Chen replied. "When the power goes out or the computers get fried, we can still fight. Try doing that with one of those fancy quantum targeting systems." The weapons officer looked up from his station. "Captain, should I tell our guest about the main guns?" Chen's grin got wider. "Oh yes, you'll love this, Ambassador. Our primary weapons are kinetic railguns." Zekthara blinked all 4 eyes slowly. "Kinetic weapons? Like throwing rocks?" "More like throwing very heavy metal rods very fast. We've got 12 main guns that can fire tungsten slugs at about 15% the speed of light. Each slug weighs about 2 tons. But surely you have energy weapons as well. Plasma cannons, particle beams." "We've got a few laser point defense systems," Chen admitted. "But honestly, why complicate things? You point the big gun at the bad guy and pull the trigger. The universe does the rest." They continued the tour through what Chen called the mess hall. It was a large room filled with metal tables and chairs. The walls were covered with pictures of Earth and what appeared to be cartoon characters. Several humans were eating from metal trays while watching a screen that showed explosions and loud music. "Movie night," Chen explained. "Tonight we're watching Explosions in Space Part 7. More explosions." Zekthara noticed that the artificial gravity seemed to flicker occasionally, making everyone bounce slightly in their seats. None of the humans seemed to mind. "Your life support systems appear to be unstable," Zekthara observed. "Nah, they just have character," Chen said. "Sometimes the gravity cuts out for a few seconds. Sometimes the air gets a little thin. Keeps everyone alert." They visited the crew quarters next. Each room was barely large enough for a bed and a small storage unit. The walls were thin metal sheets that vibrated when people walked by. Zekthara could hear someone snoring 3 rooms away. "Cozy," Chen said when she noticed Zekthara's expression. "On a ship this size, you learn to appreciate privacy when you can get it." The tour ended in what Chen called the computer core. It was a room filled with machines that hummed and clicked and occasionally sparked. The main computer was the size of a small building and appeared to be held together with metal straps and good intentions. "This is Alice," Chen said, patting the side of the massive machine. "She's been with us since day one." "Alice?" Zekthara asked. "Artificially limited intelligence computer entity. She's not very smart, but she's reliable. Runs on good old binary code." A mechanical voice came from speakers mounted on the walls. "Hello, Ambassador Zekthara. Please excuse the sparks. I am experiencing a minor electrical fire in Sector 7. "A fire?" Zekthara said in alarm. "Oh, that's normal," Chen said casually. "Alice has about 3 small fires a day. The crew puts them out when they have time." As if on cue, 2 humans walked past carrying fire extinguishers and looking completely unconcerned. "Your computer is on fire and nobody cares?" Zekthara asked. "Only a little bit on fire," Alice said helpfully. "Fire is out now. All systems nominal." By the time they returned to the docking bay, Zekthara had filled 12 pages of notes. Most of them consisted of phrases like impossible, defies logic, and how is this thing still flying? "So what do you think?" Chen asked as they stood at the bottom of the ramp. Zekthara looked at the ship one more time. It really did look like someone had taken a bunch of scrap metal and convinced it to fly. The weapons were older than most civilizations. The computers were primitive beyond belief. The crew seemed to fix everything by hitting it with tools. "It's certainly functional," Zekthara said diplomatically. "Functional's all we need," Chen replied. "She might not be the prettiest ship in the fleet, but she gets the job done." After Zekthara left, they immediately sent a report to the Hegemony Council. The report was 3 words long. No military threat. Within hours, the report had been shared with every major military power in the galaxy. The consensus was unanimous. Humanity's newest warship was a joke. It was primitive, unreliable, and operated by people who seemed to have learned engineering from instruction manuals written by children. The betting pools opened within days. The odds of the HSS Indomitable Fury surviving its first real combat engagement were set at 1,000 to 1 against. Nobody was willing to take the other side of that bet. 3 weeks later, the HSS Indomitable Fury received its first combat assignment. Captain Chen read the orders while eating breakfast in the mess hall. Around her, the crew went about their morning routine of fixing things that had broken during the night shift. "Listen up, people," Chen announced, standing on a chair so everyone could see her. "We've got escort duty. Supply convoy heading through the Kepler sector." Gunnar Peterson looked up from his eggs. "Isn't that where the ravagers have been hitting convoys?" "Yep, that's why they're sending escorts. Us and 2 ships from the Altarian Defense Force." The crew exchanged glances. The Altarians were known throughout the galaxy for having some of the most advanced military technology available. Their ships could do things that seemed like magic to most other species. "When do we leave?" asked Chief Engineer Murphy, who was currently welding a patch onto the coffee machine. 2 hours. "Make sure everything's working." Murphy looked around at the dozen small repair jobs happening in the mess hall alone. "Define working. Good enough to fly and shoot. Same as always." 2 hours later, the Indomitable Fury joined the convoy at the edge of human space. The supply ships were massive cargo haulers carrying everything from medical supplies to entertainment systems for the colonies. The other 2 escort ships were sleek Altarian vessels that looked like silver tears floating in space. Commander Veltar of the Altarian ship Swift Justice contacted Chen as they began their journey. "Captain Chen, we have reviewed your ship's specifications. We recommend you maintain position at the rear of the convoy." "Why's that?" Chen asked. "Your weapons have limited range compared to ours. We will engage any threats from a safe distance while you provide backup." Chen shrugged. "Sounds good to me. We'll be right behind you." For the first 2 days, the journey was peaceful. The convoy moved through empty space without any sign of trouble. The Altarian ships ran continuous scans while the Indomitable Fury followed along, occasionally veering off course when someone had to restart the navigation computer. On the 3rd day, the Ravagers attacked. The first sign of trouble was when 12 ships appeared out of nowhere, materializing like ghosts around the convoy. The Ravager ships were beautiful in a deadly way, with hulls that seemed to shift and bend light around them. "Phase shift technology," Commander Veltar announced over the communication channel. "All ships raise shields and prepare for combat." The 2 Altarian ships immediately deployed their energy shields and began firing precise plasma bursts at the Ravager vessels. The beams passed right through the enemy ships without causing any damage. They're using quantum phase shifting, Veltar reported. They exist partially outside normal space. Our weapons cannot touch them while they're phased. Chen watched the battle unfold on her main screen. The Ravager ships moved like dancers, flowing around the convoy while the Altarian ships fired uselessly at targets they couldn't hit. "Captain," Peterson called from the weapons station, "should I target the Ravagers?" "Can you see them?" Chen asked. Peterson squinted at his targeting screen. "Sort of. They're like heat mirages, but I can make out where they are. Then shoot them. But Captain, they're phase shifted. Our weapons won't work either." Chen pulled out a piece of beef jerky and chewed it thoughtfully. "Peterson, what happens when you throw a rock at a window? The window breaks?" "Right. And what happens if the window is made of special quantum glass that exists partially in another dimension?" Peterson thought about it. "The rock still breaks it?" "Exactly. The rock doesn't care what dimension the window thinks it's in. Load all guns with standard tungsten slugs and give me a widespread pattern." "How wide?" Chen looked at the tactical display showing the Ravager ships moving in complex patterns around the convoy. "Wide enough to hit everything in that general area." "That's a lot of space, Captain. Then we'll use a lot of bullets." The Indomitable Fury's 12 main railguns turned toward the enemy ships. Each gun was loaded with a tungsten slug weighing 2 tons. When fired, the electromagnetic rails would accelerate the slugs to 15% of light speed. "Firing," Peterson announced. The ship shuddered as all 12 guns fired simultaneously. The tungsten slugs streaked through space, followed by thousands of smaller projectiles from the secondary guns. Instead of trying to hit specific targets, Peterson had spread the shots across a wide area, creating a wall of metal flying through space. The first Ravager ship to hit the wall of tungsten simply disintegrated. The slug passed through it like it was made of paper, quantum phase shifting or not. The second ship tried to dodge but flew directly into 3 smaller projectiles that tore through its hull. "Impossible," Commander Veltar said over the communication channel. "How are you hitting phase-shifted targets?" "Beats me," Chen replied. "Peterson, keep shooting." The remaining Ravager ships began evasive maneuvers, but the Indomitable Fury kept firing. The railguns didn't need to lock onto specific targets. They just filled space with metal and let physics do the work. Within 10 minutes, 8 of the 12 Ravager ships had been destroyed. The survivors retreated, broadcasting confused messages about humans who fought like barbarians and ignored the laws of physics. After the battle, Commander Veltar requested permission to come aboard the Indomitable Fury. Chen agreed, curious to see what the Altarian wanted. Veltar was tall and thin with silver skin that reflected light like metal. They moved with precise, controlled motions as Chen gave them a tour of the ship. Every few minutes, Veltar would stop and stare at something that made no sense. "Your targeting computers are manually operated," Veltar observed. "Yep. Peterson's got good eyes and steady hands." "But how did you calculate the trajectory needed to hit phase-shifted targets?" Chen shrugged. "We didn't calculate anything. We just shot where they were and hoped for the best." Veltar was quiet for a long moment. "You defeated quantum phase-shifting technology by hoping for the best? Worked, didn't it?" They stood on the bridge while the crew went about their normal routines. Johnson kicked the main display screen twice to keep it working. Murphy hit the environmental controls with a wrench when the air recycling started making strange noises. Everything on the ship seemed to be held together by determination and luck. "Your species approaches warfare very differently than ours," Veltar said finally. "How do you folks fight?" Chen asked. "We analyze our opponents. We study their technology and develop specific countermeasures. We use precision and intelligence to overcome superior numbers." "Sounds complicated." "It is very complicated. That is why it is effective." Chen chewed on another piece of beef jerky. "See, that's where you're overthinking it. The Ravagers spent all this time developing technology that makes them immune to energy weapons. Probably took them decades and cost billions of credits. Then they run into us and we just throw rocks at them really hard." "Rocks?" "Well, tungsten rocks. But the principle's the same." Veltar made several notes on their data pad. "And this strategy works for you? So far. Of course, we've only had one fight, so maybe we just got lucky." As Veltar prepared to return to their ship, they paused at the airlock. "Captain Chen, may I ask you something?" "Sure. Do you realize how primitive your ship appears to other species?" Chen looked around at the Indomitable Fury's patched hull and jury-rigged systems. Oh yeah, we're definitely not winning any beauty contests. And this does not concern you? Why should it? Pretty ships are nice to look at, but they don't win fights. Fighting's about being too stubborn to quit and too dumb to know when you're supposed to lose. Veltar filed a report with the Altarian High Command that night. The report was longer than the one filed by Ambassador Zekthara, but it came to a similar conclusion. Human military technology was primitive and their tactics made no logical sense. However, Veltar added one additional note at the end of the report. Recommend continued observation of human combat methods. Results may prove instructive. The betting pools updated their odds. The HSS Indomitable Fury had survived its first engagement, but most experts agreed it was probably just luck. The new odds were set at 500 to 1 against the ship surviving a second battle. Still, nobody was willing to bet on the humans. News of the Ravager incident spread through the galactic communication networks faster than light travel. By the end of the week, every military command in the galaxy had received reports about the human ship that had somehow defeated quantum phase shifting, technology using kinetic weapons. Most commanders dismissed the reports as exaggerated or incomplete. The Kethmari Empire, however, decided to investigate personally. Admiral Korthma was the most decorated military officer in Kethmari history. Their ship, the Eternal Dominion, was equipped with the most advanced defensive technology ever created. Adaptive energy shields that could analyze and counter any attack within nanoseconds. Request permission to conduct joint training exercises with the human vessel. Admiral Korthma transmitted to Human Space Command. The humans, always eager to learn from more advanced species, agreed immediately. 3 days later, the HSS Indomitable Fury met the Eternal Dominion in neutral space. The contrast between the two ships was almost comical. The Kethmari vessel was a perfect silver sphere, 2 kilometers in diameter with no visible weapons or engines. It moved through space like liquid mercury, silent and graceful. The Indomitable Fury looked like a flying scrapyard next to it. Greetings. Captain Chen, Admiral Korthma's voice was translated into human speech. We are honored to participate in these exercises with your vessel. Likewise, Chen replied from the bridge of her ship. What did you have in mind? A simple combat simulation. My ship will defend against your attacks while you attempt to damage our shields. This will allow both of our crews to observe different tactical approaches. Sounds fair. Just so you know, we don't have simulation modes. When we shoot for real. There was a pause. I beg your pardon? Our guns don't have stun settings. We only know how to shoot to kill. Admiral Korthma was quiet for a moment. Their adaptive shields could handle anything short of a planetary bombardment weapon. A single primitive human ship posed no real danger. Very well. Please proceed with live fire exercises. Our shields can handle anything your weapons can produce. Chen turned to Peterson at the weapon station. You heard the alien. Light them up. Peterson began targeting the Kethmari ship with the main railguns. The targeting computer, such as it was, kept losing lock on the smooth sphere. The ship's surface reflected scanner beams in random directions. I can't get a clear lock. Captain, Peterson reported. Just aim for the middle and shoot. The Indomitable Fury's main guns fired, sending tungsten slugs streaking toward the Eternal Dominion. The Kethmari shields activated automatically, creating a shimmering energy barrier around the ship. The slugs hit the shield and disintegrated harmlessly. Fascinating, Admiral Korthma observed. Your kinetic weapons have considerable force, but our shields have already adapted to your attack method. Please try different weapons, Chen scratched her head. The ship's secondary weapons were just smaller versions of the main guns. They had some laser point defense systems, but those would be even less effective against energy shields. Captain, Chief Engineer Murphy called from the engineering station. I've been listening to the aliens' explanation of their shields. Yeah? They said the shields adapt to energy attacks and kinetic weapons. But what if we shot something that wasn't technically a weapon? Chen looked interested. What do you mean? Well, the shields are programmed to stop weapons, right? But what about other stuff? Other stuff like what? Murphy grinned. I've got some ideas. Give me 10 minutes. Admiral Korthma waited patiently while the human ship appeared to be having some kind of internal discussion. Occasionally, they could hear shouting and what sounded like heavy objects being moved around. Captain Chen, is everything operational? Just fine, Chen replied. We're loading some special ammunition. Special ammunition? You'll see. 10 minutes later, Peterson reported ready to fire. What exactly are we shooting? Chen asked. Kitchen sinks, Murphy replied cheerfully. Kitchen sinks? 3 of them. Also 2 refrigerators, a washing machine, Lieutenant Johnson's motorcycle, and that piano nobody uses from the rec room. The piano? I figured we might as well see if it works. Chen shrugged. Fire when ready. The main guns launched their unusual payload toward the Kethmari ship. The adaptive shields detected incoming objects and immediately began analysis. The computer systems tried to categorize the threats and develop appropriate countermeasures. Kitchen sink, not in weapons database. No known threat pattern. Refrigerator not in weapons database. No known threat pattern. Washing machine not in weapons database. No known threat pattern. Motorcycle not in weapons database. No known threat pattern. Piano not in weapons database. No known threat pattern. The shields designed to counter sophisticated weapons had no protocols for household appliances and musical instruments. The defensive systems tried to adapt, but there was nothing to adapt to. A kitchen sink traveling at 15% of light speed was still just a kitchen sink. The first sink punched through the shields like they weren't there and tore a hole in the Eternal Dominion's outer hull. The refrigerator followed, taking out a section of the ship's sensor array. The washing machine hit the shield generator itself, causing the entire defensive system to flicker and fail. The motorcycle, spinning end over end through space, crashed into the ship's communications array, and the piano, tumbling majestically through the void, delivered what humans would later call the killing blow as it smashed through the Kethmari Command Center. Admiral Korthma found themselves staring at a grand piano that had somehow materialized in the middle of their bridge. The instrument was slightly dented but otherwise intact. One of the keys was stuck and kept playing the same note over and over. Captain Chen, Admiral Korthma said slowly, what exactly did you just shoot at us? Household appliances mostly. Oh, and a piano, but why? Chen thought about it. Well, your shields were designed to stop weapons, right? So we didn't shoot weapons. We shot other stuff? Other stuff? Kitchen sinks, refrigerators, that sort of thing. Turns out shields that can stop antimatter bombs have trouble with washing machines. Admiral Korthma looked at the piano again. The stuck key was beginning to give them a headache. This is not warfare, they said finally. This is... I do not have words for what this is. Creative problem solving? Chen suggested. The exercise was officially ended when the Kethmari requested emergency assistance. The Indomitable Fury's engineering crew, led by Murphy, spent the next 6 hours helping to remove household appliances from various parts of the Eternal Dominion. The piano required a cutting. Torch Admiral Korthma filed a detailed report with the Kethmari High Command. The report was classified at the highest levels and shared only with the most senior military officials. The conclusion was simple. Human combat methods defied all known principles of warfare. However, the report also included a recommendation that sparked intense debate among Kethmari strategists. Suggest immediate review of all defensive protocols. Human approach to combat may represent fundamental shift in tactical thinking. The betting pools across the galaxy were updated again. The odds against the HSS Indomitable Fury were reduced to 100 to 1, but only because several betting houses had lost too much money and needed to reduce their exposure. A few small bets were placed on the human ship. Most of them came from beings who claimed they were betting for entertainment purposes only. The Kethmari Empire quietly began testing their adaptive shields against household appliances. The results were classified, but rumors suggested that kitchen sinks were now considered a potential military threat. Captain Chen, when asked about the exercise, simply said, "Turns out the best way to defeat advanced technology is to not use advanced technology." She paused to chew on a piece of beef jerky. Also, never underestimate the tactical value of a good piano. The piano in question was eventually returned to the Indomitable Fury, where it was placed in a position of honor in the mess hall. A small plaque was attached that read, "First musical instrument to achieve military victory in space combat." Lieutenant Johnson learned to play 3 new songs on it, including one he claimed was called The Ballad of the Flying Piano. The crew voted it their favorite piece of military equipment. Within 6 months, the HSS Indomitable Fury had become the most famous ship in the galaxy, for all the wrong reasons. Military academies across dozens of star systems added new courses to their curriculum with names like unconventional, warfare theory, and when standard tactics fail. The ship's reputation grew with each impossible victory. Against the Zeketh Collective's nanobot swarms, the crew had used flamethrowers and industrial electromagnets. When asked how they knew this would work, Chief Engineer Murphy had simply said, "Nanobots are just tiny robots, and robots don't like fire or magnets." Against the Korth Dynasty's reality-bending weapons that could make enemy ships forget they existed, Captain Chen had ordered the crew to shoot where the ship used to be before it bent reality. This strategy worked because, as Gunnar Peterson explained, reality can bend all at once, but 500 tons of steel moving at really fast speeds is still 500 tons of steel. The most famous victory came against the Veltari hegemony, whose ships could create time dilation fields that slowed down incoming attacks to a crawl. Chen's solution was to shoot more bullets than the time field could slow down. "Time moves slower in that bubble?" she had said. "Great. More time for our bullets to find their target." Each victory was documented by increasingly confused military observers. The Galactic press had taken to calling the ship the miracle of human stupidity and the warship that shouldn't work. But does Captain Chen read these articles in the mess hall while the crew went about their daily routine of keeping the ship functional through brute force and determination. The hull now bore kill marks painted in bright colors. Each mark looked like a cartoon character, because Lieutenant Johnson was the ship's artist and he had learned to paint by copying entertainment programs. "Captain?" Peterson called from across the room where he was cleaning one of the smaller guns with a toothbrush. "We've got incoming communication from Earth Command." Chen walked to the communication station, which was currently held together with metal tape and good intentions. The screen flickered to life, showing Admiral Rodriguez, the head of Human Space Forces. "Captain Chen, you've made quite a name for yourself out there." "Just doing our job, sir. Your job was convoy escort. You've somehow turned it into a tour of the galaxy's most advanced military forces." Chen shrugged. "They keep wanting to test us." Seemed rude to say no. Admiral Rodriguez looked tired. "Chen, do you have any idea how many requests we're getting for joint exercises with your ship?" "A few. Try every major military power in the galaxy. The Altarians want to study your targeting methods. The Kethamari want to understand your weapon selection process. The Veltari are offering to trade 3 star systems for a copy of your tactical database." "We don't have a tactical database," Chen said. "I know that. You know that." They don't seem to believe that. The communication was interrupted by a loud crash from somewhere in the ship, followed by shouting and the sound of power tools. "What was that?" Admiral Rodriguez asked. "Probably Murphy fixing something. He's been working on the coffee machine all morning." "The coffee machine?" "It started making the coffee too hot yesterday. Murphy thinks one of the heating elements is broken, so he's installing a new one from the spare parts locker." "There was another crash louder this time. Should I be concerned?" the Admiral asked. "Only if the coffee's still too hot after he's done." Admiral Rodriguez rubbed his temples. "Chen, I'm sending you new orders. There's a situation developing in the Outer Rim that requires immediate attention." "What kind of situation?" "The kind that's classified above your clearance level. But I can tell you this. It's bigger than anything you've faced so far." After the communication ended, Chen gathered her senior officers in the mess hall. The group included Peterson, Murphy, Johnson, and Dr. Sarah Kim, the ship's medical officer who also served as the science specialist, because she was the only person on board with a degree in something other than engineering or military science. "So what's the situation?" Murphy asked while adjusting the coffee machine with a plasma cutter. "Don't know yet. Orders are sealed until we reach the destination." But the Admiral seemed worried. Dr. Kim looked up from her tablet where she was reading medical journals. "Worried how?" "Worried like when your commanding officer tells you something's classified above your clearance level." The crew was quiet for a moment. In their experience, classified situations usually meant someone wanted them to fight something that was supposed to be impossible to defeat. "Well," Peterson said finally, "we've fought phase shifters, adaptive shields, reality benders, and time manipulators. How much weirder can it get?" 3 days later, they found out. The sealed orders directed them to a region of space that wasn't on any public star charts. When they arrived, they found a massive fleet of ships from dozens of different species, all keeping a careful distance from something in the center of the formation. Captain Chen had never seen so many different types of ships in one place. There were Altarian defense cruisers, Kethmari battlespheres, Veltari reality ships, and vessels from species she didn't recognize. Every major military power in the galaxy seemed to be represented. "This is Admiral Tessara of the Combined Fleet," came a transmission as soon as they arrived. "HSS Indomitable Fury, please report to the command vessel immediately." Admiral Tessara was a Zentorian, which meant they looked like a cross between a spider and a tree. They had 6 arms, each of which seemed to be doing something different while they talked. "Captain Chen, thank you for coming. We have a situation that requires your unique approach to problem solving." "What kind of situation?" Admiral Tessara gestured toward the center of the fleet formation with 2 of their arms, while signing documents with the other 4. "The Apex Collective." Chen looked at the tactical display. In the center of the fleet was what appeared to be empty space, but the sensors showed massive energy readings coming from the area. "I don't see anything," Chen said. "That's because the Apex exist beyond normal matter. They are beings of pure energy who have transcended physical form." "Okay, what's the problem?" "They have decided that physical matter is an inefficient use of space. They plan to convert all matter in the galaxy into energy." Chen thought about this. "All matter?" "All matter. Every planet, every star, every living being. Everything would become pure energy under their control. That seems like it would be bad for those of us who are made of matter. Extremely bad." Admiral Tessara agreed. Chen looked at the combined fleet again. There had to be 1,000 ships out there, representing the most advanced military technology in the galaxy. "So what's the plan?" "That's the problem. We don't have one. The Apex exist as pure energy. Our weapons pass through them without effect. Their ships are made of crystallized dark matter. Our most powerful weapons barely scratch them. Have you tried shooting household appliances at them?" Admiral Tessara paused in their multitasking. "I beg your pardon?" "Household appliances. Kitchen sinks, refrigerators, that sort of thing. Works great against advanced technology." "Captain Chen, these beings exist beyond physical matter. I don't think kitchen sinks will be effective." Chen shrugged. "Won't know until we try." That night, Captain Chen held a meeting with her crew in the mess hall. They sat around the piano that had become their unofficial conference table. "So here's the situation," Chen began. "We're facing beings of pure energy who want to turn everything in the galaxy into more energy." "Everything?" Murphy asked. "Everything. Planets, stars, people, coffee machines, everything." Murphy looked horrified. "Not the coffee machine. The coffee machine, the piano, and everything else." Dr. Kim raised her hand. "Captain, how exactly do you fight beings made of pure energy?" "Good question. Any ideas?" The crew was quiet for a moment, thinking. "What if we're thinking about this wrong?" Johnson said finally. "How so?" "Well, they're made of energy, right? What do we do when we have too much energy in the ship's systems? We ground it or redirect it," Murphy said slowly. "Right. So what if instead of trying to destroy them, we just redirect them?" Chen looked interested. "Keep talking." "I'm thinking about the time Murphy fixed the power surge in engineering by connecting the excess current to the waste recycling system. That was an accident," Murphy protested. "But it worked," Johnson pointed out. "What if we could do something similar but on a bigger scale?" Dr. Kim pulled up some notes on her tablet. "From what I understand about energy beings, they would be similar to very complex electrical systems. So we treat them like a power surge?" Peterson asked. "A really, really big power surge," Chen said thoughtfully. Murphy grinned. "I think I know just the thing." The next morning, Captain Chen requested a meeting with Admiral Tessara. "You have a plan?" The Admiral asked hopefully. "We have an idea. It's either going to work really well or kill us all. At this point, I'm willing to try anything. What do you need?" "Every EMP generator, microwave oven, and electrical component you can find. Also, do any of these ships have industrial-grade bug spray?" Admiral Tessara stared at Chen with all 6 eyes. "Bug spray? Trust me on this one." For the next 18 hours, the HSS Indomitable Fury became the center of the strangest military operation in galactic history. Ships from across the galaxy delivered their contributions to what Captain Chen had dubbed Operation Kitchen Sink. Chief Engineer Murphy worked with engineering teams from a dozen different species to build what he called the Stupid Switch. The device was a massive EMP generator cobbled together. from spare parts, duct tape, microwave ovens, and what appeared to be a washing machine motor from the ship's laundry room. "Are you certain this will work?" Admiral Tessara asked as they watched Murphy connect a toaster to the main power coupling. "Nope," Chen replied cheerfully, "but we're pretty sure it'll do something." Dr. Kim had spent the time researching energy-based life forms using the combined databases of the entire fleet. Her conclusion was not encouraging. "Captain, based on everything I can find, beings of pure energy should be immune to electromagnetic pulses. EMPs affect electronic systems, not energy itself." "Should be immune," Chen repeated. "But are they? I don't know. There's no data on anyone ever trying it. Then we'll be the first." Peterson had used the time to modify the ship's weapon systems, instead of tungsten slugs. The main guns were now loaded with what he called care packages. Each package contained a mixture of things that shouldn't work against energy beings but might anyway. "What's in them?" Chen asked. "Industrial bug spray, glitter, rubber bands, and about 50 pounds of steel wool per package." "Glitter?" "Murphy's idea. He said if we're going to confuse them, we might as well make it sparkly." As the combined fleet prepared for battle, the Apex Collective finally made contact. The communication came not through radio waves or quantum transmissions, but as thoughts that appeared directly in everyone's mind. The voice was like listening to the sound of electricity given consciousness. "Primitive flesh creatures, your crude matter-based existence ends now. We will convert your chaotic physical forms into pure, efficient energy." Captain Chen activated the ship's communication system. "Copy that, Sparkles. Question, though. If you're pure energy, what happens when we short-circuit you?" There was a pause that felt like static in everyone's brain. "Short-circuit? We are beyond your primitive understanding of electrical systems. We'll see about that." "Murphy, is the stupid switch ready?" "Ready as it'll ever be, Captain. Though I should mention that when I tested it on a smaller scale, it made the coffee machine play music for 3 hours." "What kind of music?" "Classical. Mozart, I think," Admiral Tessara interrupted. "Captain, the Apex ships are moving. 3 vessels approaching from different directions." Chen looked at the tactical display. The Apex ships were barely visible, like shadows made of light. They moved through space without any obvious means of propulsion, flowing like liquid energy. "All ships, this is Captain Chen. When the shooting starts, everyone stay back. We don't know what's going to happen."
"And I'd rather not."
"Accidentally short-circuit the entire combined fleet." The first Apex ship materialized fully into normal space about 1 kilometer away from the indomitable Fury. It was beautiful in an otherworldly way, looking like someone had built a starship out of crystallized lightning. Energy patterns flowed across its surface like living circuits. "Flesh creature vessel, prepare for conversion to energy," the Apex Herald announced directly into everyone's mind. "Counteroffer," Chen replied. "How about you go away and we'll pretend this never happened? Your matter will become one with the collective. Resistance is inefficient. Resistance might be inefficient, but it's a lot more fun. Murphy, flip the stupid switch." Murphy threw a lever that looked like it had been taken from a 19th century factory. The massive EMP generator powered up with a sound like 1,000 microwaves all running at once. The electromagnetic pulse that erupted from the indomitable Fury was unlike anything that had ever been created. It wasn't just an EMP. It was an electromagnetic storm, powered by the combined electrical output of a dozen different technologies that had never been designed to work together. The pulse hit the Apex ship like a tidal wave of chaotic energy. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the ship began to flicker like a badly tuned television screen. "Impossible," the Herald's mental voice crackled with static. "We are pure energy. Electromagnetic interference cannot affect us." "Funny thing about that," Chen said. "You might be pure energy, but you're still electrical in nature. And electricity doesn't like being scrambled." The Apex ship continued to flicker and spark. The beautiful energy patterns on its hull began moving erratically, like circuits overloading. "Now, Peterson." The main guns fired, launching their care packages at the confused Apex vessel. The industrial bug spray hit first, somehow managing to stick to the energy-based hull. The glitter followed, embedding itself in the ship's quantum matrix. "What is this substance?" The Herald's voice was now definitely distorted. "It will not disperse. It exists in dimensions we cannot access." "That's craft glitter," Peterson called out. "The stuff gets everywhere and never comes off." The steel wool and rubber bands added to the chaos, creating electromagnetic feedback loops that made the Apex ship's energy patterns even more unstable. The other two Apex vessels tried to help their companion, but they flew directly into the lingering effects of the EMP blast. Their own energy matrices began to destabilize as the chaotic electromagnetic fields interfered with their quantum coherence. "This is not warfare," the herald transmitted, their mental voice now sounding like a radio with poor reception. "This is cosmic vandalism." "Whatever works," Chen replied. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted exactly 17 minutes. By the end, all three Apex ships were retreating while broadcasting. Confused complaints about glitter existing in dimensions we did not know were possible and electromagnetic. Interference that violates the fundamental laws of energy, physics. The Herald's final transmission was heard by every ship in the combined fleet. "We withdraw our conversion offer. This matter is too chaotic to be efficiently processed. We will find energy sources elsewhere." As the Apex ships disappeared back into whatever dimension they normally occupied, the combined fleet sat in stunned silence. Admiral Tessara was the first to speak. "Captain Chen, how did you know that would work?" "I didn't," Chen admitted, "but it seemed worth trying. You defeated beings of pure energy with an electromagnetic pulse and craft supplies. Don't forget the bug spray. That seemed to really annoy them." Dr. Kim ran her scans of the area where the Apex ships had been. "Captain, I'm reading residual glitter particles scattered across several cubic kilometers of space. Some of them appear to be existing in dimensions that shouldn't be mathematically possible. Is that bad? I have no idea. I don't think anyone knows what happens when glitter exists in impossible dimensions." The combined fleet began to disperse over the next few hours. Representatives from dozens of species came aboard the Indomitable Fury to examine the stupid switch and understand how the humans had achieved another impossible victory. None of them could explain how it worked. "Your species has a unique approach to problem solving," Admiral Tessara said during their farewell meeting. "You seem to succeed by refusing to understand why you should fail." "That's one way to put it," Chen agreed. "The galactic military academies will be studying this battle for centuries. Good luck with that. We're not even sure how we did it." As the Indomitable Fury prepared to return to human space, the crew gathered in the mess hall for their traditional post-battle celebration. This mainly involved eating pizza and watching entertainment programs on the main screen. "So what's next?" Peterson asked while trying to remove glitter from his uniform. "Back to convoy escort duty," Chen said. "Command thinks we need a break from saving the galaxy." "Sounds boring," Murphy said. "Boring's good. Boring means nothing's trying to kill us." Dr. Kim looked up from her medical reports. "Captain, I've been thinking about our recent battles." "Yeah?" "We've defeated quantum phase shifting, adaptive energy shields, reality manipulation, time dilation, and pure energy beings, all using methods that shouldn't work according to known physics." Chen chewed thoughtfully on a piece of pizza. "Your point? Maybe the reason our methods work is exactly because they shouldn't work. We succeed because we don't understand the rules well enough to know we're breaking them." The crew considered this in silence for a moment. "That's either very wise or very stupid," Johnson said finally. "With us." "It's usually both," Chen replied. The HSS Indomitable Fury returned to Earth 3 weeks later. The ship was given a hero's welcome, though most of the celebrating crowds had no real understanding of what the crew had accomplished. The betting pools across the galaxy were quietly shut down. No one was willing to take odds against the human ship anymore. Captain Chen, when asked by reporters about the secret of their success, gave her now famous response. "Turns out the universe is a lot like an old engine. Sometimes you just need to hit it with a wrench until it works the way you want it to." She paused to spit tobacco juice into a cup. "Also, never underestimate the tactical value of craft glitter." The galactic military academies added a new required course to their curriculum: Human Warfare, when ignorance becomes a tactical advantage.